Hey everybody, we're doing something a little bit different, which means technology is kind of challenging again. Let me just see here. I'm trying to turn off my background music and it's not wanting to turn off. Hopefully you guys can hear me fine anyway. And if not, let me know. Tell me in the comments if you cannot hear me well. Okay, I got it turned off finally. All right. So we're back in my kitchen today. We'll try to get the sink out of the way. Hey, Carmen and Tampere. Hello, ladies. And you can hear me good. All right. Well, I thought that we would take a little bit of time today, both to do me and ask me anything, because it has been a while. And we have a couple of questions to go over that people have asked. And please ask more. But also, I wanted to show you a couple of things that I do that I often talk about, but you guys haven't really seen. And so I thought, well, we'll just take a break today and do the Ask Me Anything and spend some time in my kitchen. Unfortunately, I can't make my alternative camera work real well, but I'm going to try. Actually, let's see if this will work. And I don't think it's working. Why not? Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. That is weird.
There we go. Okay. So we're going to go back to just me for most of the time, but occasionally I'll pick up my phone and use my camera there to show you some things up close. But first, let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up. One thing, I don't have a slide for it. I'll have it next week. But School of Traditional Skills is having me do a 2-hour live workshop November 19th, I believe. I'm looking at the wrong month here. November 19th, and it is at what time? Well, it is definitely not at 4 a.m. I'll have to post the time because I don't remember. I think it's from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, if I'm remembering correctly. But November 9th, we just had a final meeting about that this morning. And I'm pretty excited about it because for that workshop, we're going to do a fun pumpkin bread, or maybe sourdough pumpkin muffin is more where I'm leaning. And we're going to talk about a lot of the issues that people have with sourdough starter and then making sourdough bread density and all kinds of things, because we do get questions and we want to be able to answer them. So we'll put a code up and a link for that. You will have to become a member of School of Traditional Skills to partake in that. But once you're in, you can have my intensive sourdough workshop class. And then you also have access to a great many really, really good courses. Everything from Sally Fallon Morell's broth workshop to my friend Harvey's Backyard Chickens to Justin Rhodes' chicken butchery and chicken raising for meat birds. We've got fermentation, all kinds of stuff. And I may be doing more as well. I'm excited about the possibility. But for right now, November 19th, I will clarify the time, but I believe it's 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. And again, we'll post a link. You'll need to become a member. And we would ask that you become a member through our link, because School of Traditional Skills does thank us with an affiliate anyway, you know how that works, I'm sure, but we're always grateful for such things because it helps us to operate and do more things for you. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to Thanksgiving period, and I'm going to be posting some more Thanksgiving recipes. I'll share some special things that I'm doing that I do every year and some new things that I'm doing. And maybe we'll even hop in the kitchen for a little bit. But I am also excited because we have found someone to assist me in scheduling our interviewees. And man, do I have a list of interviewees. People I've already spoken to, they've already agreed to come on. And now I have someone to help me with the scheduling, which is going to be such a blessing. But since I came back last week from the Wise Traditions Conference in Utah, Georgia and I got back early Tuesday morning last week. I spoke with several people there, several people that were new to me, a couple who I was already acquainted with, and we're setting up some really neat interviews, including one I'm excited about is Morley Robbins, who I've worked with many, many, many years ago when I used to write and coach for Liberation Wellness. Again, a long time ago. But Morley is the founder of Root Cause Protocol. It's a program that I really believe in. It's very solid to help us get to the root of physical ailments and figure out the cause so we can make the corrections. So I'll be interviewing him soon. Next week is Dr. T. I'm not going to say her whole name, and we're not going to use all the words that might get us in some trouble. But next week, I'm excited to talk with Dr. T, or I'll say Dr. Sherry. But that is going to be an important interview where we're going to delve deeply into really important topics relating to children's health and wellness and what it really takes to be healthy and resist disease. All right. And then I'm going to mention once again the From Table to Temple event, April 24th and 26th, 2026. It may seem like a long way away, but it's not. It's going to come up fast. And we would love for you to be part of this. It is near Roanoke, Virginia. There are lots of good places to stay. We're going to be having a wonderful dinner, a presentation, bluegrass music, and then a full day of workshops and presentations. So we hope that you can join us for that. And tickets are on sale. They make great Christmas gifts. And then I wanted to update you as well on some things that we have in the works for next year. One of which is a retreat for families happening at White Sulphur Springs in Pennsylvania. I'm working with my friend Steele there. We will be teaching people biblical nutrition and how to prepare foods, how to be well, just a whole variety of topics. I think I'm cooking a meal for that as well. That will be the end of January, I think the last weekend of January going into February, but we'll put details up about that as well. And I also look forward to interviewing Steele and talking about the many things that he does there at White Sulphur Springs. It's a really, really neat venue and really neat program. And they're just out there like us trying to help people. 2 weeks from now, I will be interviewing Sophia Eng once again. We are going to talk on the topic of healthy homesteading. We thought this was an important topic to cover because there are many people out there homesteading, and most of them are homesteading at least for some nutritional value, being able to raise clean food and nutritious food while also saving money and being prepared. But not everybody's into all of that. we're going to talk about the health aspect of why do we homestead and how can we accomplish healthy homesteading for our families. So that will be coming up in 2 weeks. But in addition to that, Sophie and I are working together on 2 retreats. The first one will likely be late May. It will be in northeastern Tennessee. It's a women's only retreat. And the focus is going to be on healthy and healing foods, and we'll have some devotions and a lot of good friendship building, relationship building. And then Sophie's second book will be coming out next fall, about 1 year from now. And so we are also planning on doing a retreat in Maine at the property in the extreme northeast of Maine. We had set this up a year or 2 ago and really didn't have enough time to get it really rolling. But we have a lot of really things planned for that, including whale watching, going to the lobsterman's wharf and picking lobster for dinner, all kinds of neat stuff in an absolutely exquisitely beautiful, quiet, awesome, peaceful location. I really enjoy going there. I usually go up once a year for a week or 2 with my husband as he takes care of the property and is in charge of creating new projects and accomplishing new projects there. So we'll have details about that as we have arrangements made. That would be something. It's going to be on the pricier side. It's a rather expensive place to be, but we will be ferrying people from the airport to the location in Lubec, Maine. It truly is a unique and beautiful place. If you're at all curious, look up Lubec, Lubec, and check out the Bay of Fundy, which is the bay on the Atlantic Ocean upon which Lubec sits. And this spectacular property sits on a cove all by itself, abutting a nature preserve, and it is just glorious. So 2 things then to be thinking about with Sophie, 2 separate retreats, and we're both really excited about it. So those things are coming up, and we'll let you know about more as more things are figured out. I guess I'll mention Seeking Whole Health, which is in mid-April of next year, also the weekend before our own event. Seeking Whole Health is near Wooster, Ohio. Sally Fallon Morell will be speaking. Alex Clark from Turning Point USA, and yours truly. I'll be there speaking along with quite a few others as well. That is a really neat event. I am so honored to be part of that. I just love it. All righty. So with all of that out of the way, I'm going to start with one burning question left over from last week, which we didn't fully address. I very much enjoyed our interview with Dr. Diane Schwartzbein. It was really informative and interesting to me. I hope it was to you as well. But the one thing that I had intended really to go deeply into, we sort of side-skirted because we got off in some other really important directions, which I'm thankful for. But we didn't thoroughly cover the blood sugar regulation question. And so I just want to touch on that because that is one question that we've had several times. So let's talk about that for a moment. I have had blood sugar regulation issues, as I mentioned in the interview last week. It was quite challenging to me for a couple of years when I was eating a healthy diet, a truly wholesome, healthy diet, but it was very heavy on bread and pasta. And it was not real good for my body. And I had to work very, very hard. And I still do have to work pretty hard to just maintain a healthy weight and a healthy metabolism and a healthy blood sugar level. And so what I learned, and I learned first through Dr. Schwartzbein, and then by the Liberation Diet book and other sources. I learned about a ketogenic diet, which is not actually something I fully recommend. I actually adopted a modified ketogenic diet, and it's something that I will be going back to here very soon. But I don't believe in eliminating whole food groups. However, I did learn that by decreasing my carb intake, and by carbs, I'm meaning whole carbs. I'm meaning things like whole grain sourdough bread, potatoes, and carbs that come naturally from vegetables and some grains, things that are healthy and good for us. But when we have too much of them and not enough protein and fat, we get into this uneven, unbalanced syndrome wherein we will have blood sugar issues, as I did. But also, we can drive those issues into actual metabolic syndrome. We can develop type 2 diabetes or type 3 diabetes, Alzheimer's, another important topic which we'll be covering soon. So blood sugar regulation really is important, and the Cliff Note version of it is increase fat, saturated fat, whole, healthy, good fats, the kind of fats that they tell you not to consume, that they're bad for you. Things like butter, ghee, lard, tallow, coconut oil, and olive oil. But by increasing our fat intake, it slows the absorption of the carbs that we are eating. So for instance, I enjoy a piece of sourdough bread, actually. Yeah, I make bread still about once a week. I make enough that I have some to sell for some extra cash. And, here's what I made a few days ago. And I really enjoy having just a nice thin slice of this in the morning with my eggs. So it's whole multi-grain and it's fully fermented. I do make it with the Polish method, not the sourdough starter method, but fully fermented, everything the same. But if I just have a piece of this bread, it is going to be difficult for my body on its own to manage the carb intake. But I regard bread as the vehicle by which I get butter into my mouth. I always joke about that, but I'm serious. So if I take a thin slice of bread and I toast it, or I slice it off hot out of the oven, I put a thick layer of butter on top of it, good quality butter. Sometimes I use raw butter, such as this. I've got raw butter from Triple E Farms, who support us and we work together. They are from where I get my milk each week, and I have a couple of tubs of their good raw butter. So toast in the morning is a great way to get the nutrients from raw butter into your mouth and into your body, and especially the fat for blood sugar regulation. So that saturated fat helps to normalize the blood sugar when you're taking in those carbs, even complex carbs. But then the butter also has butyric acid, which is an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and it has vitamin A, fully formed vitamin A. It's just a really super nutritious food. And so why wouldn't we want it? So just remember to normalize blood sugar levels, always take in more protein and more fat, more saturated fats to balance it out. Now, Dr. Diane talked last week about a test, and I haven't done it yet. I'm planning on doing it soon. But she talked about a test that will tell you your specific blood profile or your genetic profile that determines exactly what the ratios of carbs to fat and protein needs to be ideally suited for your own body. Not everybody's going to be able to do that test. I'm going to give it a try as soon as I can. But at the very least, minimize your carb. Don't eliminate your carbs, but increase fat and protein to regulate blood sugar. And this works for type 1 diabetics, type 2 diabetics, gestational diabetes, metabolic disorder, hypoglycemia, all of it. I have read stories and I've seen stories on YouTube of type 1 diabetics who have gone this route, and they've been able to not completely get off of their insulin injections, but dramatically increase, like 50, 60, 70, even 80% less insulin input just by decreasing the carbs, not eliminating, and increasing the fat and the protein. It's a good way to eat anyway if you're pregnant and you're wanting to have a healthy baby and not have gestational diabetes. I have one friend who was like me, home birthing and producing beautiful babies, but her babies were getting larger one by one by one until one of her babies was almost 11 pounds at birth. And she did get hung up in the birth canal. The midwife thankfully knew exactly what to do, and they got the baby out safely. She was fine, but we talked about it afterwards, and I advised her that she likely was experiencing gestational diabetes and that it would be a good idea to cut down on her carbs and increase the fat and protein. Her next two babies, which were her last two babies, were born at a normal weight with no problems, no issues. So that's just testament to how this works. The more carbs you eat, the more likely you are to have blood sugar regulation issues, and the body's going to store all of the extra carb calories as fat. So a good way to lose unnecessary fat also is just to increase your fat content. But there's a caveat with this. I'm going to pull something out right now. And this is part of my practical tips also that I want to go over today. So this is a good segue. When you are taking in fat and protein, you should always be taking a ferment anyway. There should be a ferment at every meal. In the morning, for me, it's cultured raw dairy, or it's my Trimona yogurt, which I just love. But at any other meal of the day, I'm taking in at least the brine of a ferment. Now, some people, including one of my sons-in-law, really like sauerkraut. If I put this sauerkraut out, he just goes nuts over it, and so do their children. Their little girl, who is 6 now in particular, sometimes you've seen her on here, Miss Olivia, she can sit down and pound down some sauerkraut. And it is so good for your gut microbiome, but the enzymes digest fat and protein. You've probably heard me talk about this before. If you are increasing your fat and protein intake, you want to definitely be increasing your fermented foods as well. Now, here's one way that I get mine. I do not love eating sauerkraut. I don't mind my garlic dill pickles, but I don't love them. But you know what I do love always is the brine. This, you want to guess what it is? Give me some guesses, girls. What is this stuff? I've started doing this just this year. Wish I would have done it for many years, but nope, I'm a slow learner. This is my fermented garlic dill pickles, and I puree them. Again, I don't love eating dill pickles, and my husband really doesn't like dill pickles either. He can tolerate sauerkraut, but he doesn't love that either. But this stuff, I like it. It has the garlic dill flavor, and it has all of the enzymatic activity from being fermented. Now I'm going to show you a quick little trick. My neighbor was over the other day. He often will come when I'm out of town, and he'll check on the dogs and he'll check on the chickens and make sure everybody's fed, happy, and not destroying the house. So he had been over last week while I was gone with his little boy, and he told me yesterday, there were these big gourds in the backyard. Kai found them. We were wondering what they were. So he took me to the backyard and showed me. And you know what they were? They were overripe cucumbers. What do you do with overripe cucumbers? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to show you right now. And if you don't mind, I accidentally left the dog outside, the puppy. Let me let him in. Okay. Buddy is very happy to be inside again. He might come over and say hello. So I'm going to take this. You may remember, if you've taken any of my classes on fermenting, that the blossom end of the cucumber, so not the end that breaks off of the cucumber, but the other end, the blossom end, contains enzymes that break down the cucumber for the seeds to ripen and to reproduce. So if you're doing dill pickles and leaving them intact, you're going to want to cut that tip off. But for this, it matters not. So all I'm going to do is cut this into just chunks. Now, part of my food prep tips is also to have good, useful implements. If you just have a few good things, I recommend only wooden cutting boards, never plastic, never fiberglass, never acrylic. That stuff dulls your knives and gets into your food. It's harmful. You've heard all the talk about microplastics. We don't want microplastics in our food. So a wooden cutting board and a good knife. And if you can only afford one good knife, this is the one that I use every single day repeatedly, far more than any other. It is on our resource list under tools and equipment. It is made by Henkel's. It is a high carbon steel knife, so it holds its edge. I'm telling you, I use this stuff really heavily. I do sharpen it once or twice a week, but it holds its edge because it is high carbon, and yet it's easy to sharpen because it's not too hard on the Rockwell score. So a good knife and a decent wooden cutting board, and I'm not going to pull my cutting board up. Okay, I'm going to add a couple of cloves of garlic because, you know, garlic is just so good. So I'm going to use my knife and just snap 2 cloves of garlic and drop those in there as well. As I add to this from time to time, I'll taste it to see, does it need more salt? Does it need more dill? Does it need more garlic? Well, it can always use more garlic because garlic is so good, unless you're my friend Julianne and you can't handle garlic. I feel so sad for her. Okay, I'm going to add some Celtic sea salt or Redmond real salt. That jar just happens to be Celtic. Now, on the Food Prep Made Easy end, I also want to show you my kitchen is cleaner than usual because I cleaned all of the countertops off yesterday to reseal them. So it's actually pretty clean. But I want to show you that here's my wooden cutting board. But it's really important to have a few other good tools like this. This now is actually my favorite food processor. I had a different one and I loved it, and it's on our resource list. I'm not sure if it still is available. I broke the canister and couldn't replace it, so my kids bought me this, and I really like it. But the other thing I wanted to point out was just to have ingredients that you regularly use at your fingertips. Just have them out. So my flours are out. This is my baking area right here. So my flours are out. My salt is always out. And then I have a few more things here. I recently bought this when actually Sophie and we were catering an event in a non-kitchen kitchen. We made it a kitchen. We were thankful to have a sink and a refrigerator, but otherwise it was not a kitchen. And I'm using this more than my regular ovens now, other than when I am baking bread, because my double ovens, which are back there, they're wonderful. I like them very much, but they cost more money to operate. So I'm using this for most things. My KitchenAid I've used for years and years and years. Super, super good, important tool. So of my primary tools in the kitchen, though, it's going to be the Vitamix. It's now going to be this Breville oven. We'll have to put a link up for that. I do really like it. Of course, my KitchenAid, but I have to say I don't use it as a mixer as much as I use it to grate cheese. And then the Ninja blender. And then I'm coming around to the KitchenAid immersion blender. Man, this thing gets a workout regularly, and I'm going to use it right now. Oh, but now that I think about it, I think it needed to be charged, and I did not charge it. Huh? We'll see. All right. Usually I charge this, and it will last. It will hold a charge with regular use for at least a month. So I don't charge it very often, but I'm just going to use it down in here to puree that overripe cucumber. Get the idea. It doesn't take long to puree the whole thing. And then I'm just going to let this sit out on the counter for a few more days. Then I'll stick it in the fridge. So it will ferment faster because it's pureed. And then I have perpetually brine for the digestive system, if we're feeling sick to the stomach, or just for everyday good gut health and to break down fats and proteins. This is my go-to, but it has another purpose. And that is I use it as a base, second to good quality olive oil, to make especially salad dressing, but also mayonnaise. So instead of using all vinegar or lemon juice, I use about 50% brine from a ferment. This is my go-to ferment for that purpose because it really adds a beautiful flavor, but it also protects and preserves the mayonnaise and the salad dressing to keep it whole and good for a fairly long time. Not that in our house any of that lasts very long, because it doesn't, but it does help to preserve both of those things for a longer period of time. So this is a must-have in my house, and I hope it will become the same for you. Sometimes I puree some sauerkraut in brine for the same reasons, for a medicinal tonic, but also as a base for mayonnaise and salad dressing. So those are two go-to things that I pretty much always have. Now, another thing that I talk about a lot is making broth by the gallons. My husband really does well when he has it every day. He's on a healing journey for the second time around, pretty serious healing journey. Erin is helping him as she's a functional nutritionist and certified restorative wellness gut health not coach, but practitioner. So she's working with him right now, and he's feeling much better than he was. Broth is something that he needs to have every single day. Broth is the backbone of every soup, sauce, stew. I use it to cook vegetables, all of that. So I'm going to show you what I have going on right now. I'm going to see if I can put, nope, wrong one. Okay. Got it. We can tell which camera is better. It's the one I wanted to use. I'm going to still talk through my laptop, but I'm going to bring you over here and show you a couple of things. Ooh. So I think you can see okay. Tell me if you can't. So here I have, it's not supposed to be boiling. I always say simmer the bones, don't boil the bones. But this is beef broth. Okay. I made stew with it last night. So I'm still only going to have about 3 quarts after I strain that because I used about 2 cups in the stew. And this is chicken broth that I made, I think, on Monday, and I have also been using that. So you can see there's not that much in there. But I am going to strain that along with, what's going on here? This broth. This broth I made 2 weeks ago, I think. And I stuck it in the fridge, and you can't really see it now, but there's a very healthy layer of fat on the surface. The reason why this broth isn't stinky and spoiled is because it was sealed with that fat. Here is another pot. That is actually the stew that I made yesterday, the beef stew, and it has too much fat. It's just not pleasant. It's kind of greasy, too much. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to skim some fat off the surface and put it in a pan with some water. And I'm just going to gently warm it. Then I will refrigerate it and peel the fat off the top, and I can use that for cooking. Okay, so I'm just gonna. I don't want to take all of the fat, but I want to take most of it because there's still going to be fat contained within the meat and the vegetables, and we just don't want it to be so fatty that it's hard to digest and that it just tastes greasy. Okay, so I'll leave it like that. That's it. Now, I'm going to come back to here. Here first, okay. All right. What I want to do now is I want to I think I'll strain the beef broth first. And maybe that's all I'll strain on camera. I can strain the other when we're done. But I want to strain it because I want to show you then what I do next and what I accomplish in the end that I think is so valuable. So let me grab a pan. Yeah. This pan is a little smaller than I would like, but I think it will serve the purpose. I'm just going to put the colander right there. Now I can line it with cheesecloth as well to strain out some more of the small particles, but I don't have a lot of cheesecloth left, but I'm going to go ahead and use what I've got. So cheesecloth, and I typically set it in the sink so that any spill is manageable. But I'm going to set it beside the sink, and I think I can show you what I do. Not that it's this is not a big shocker. Okay. Now there is a point to this because I'm sure that you all know how to make a good broth By the way, lots of roasted veggies there. I roasted the bones. I made marrow pudding. Oh man, it was so good. I made bone marrow pudding on Monday for guests that came. It was delicious. I hadn't made it for a few years and I was really missing it. So I had a friend that I made many, many years ago and had never met in person. She and her husband came to visit on Monday. And so for them, I made a wonderful meal, including chicken liver pate, aged cheeses as an appetizer with fresh bread. And then we had, oh my goodness, I don't even remember the main course. Don't remember. But we finished it off with the bone marrow pudding. And I mean, every bit of it was eaten up. It was so delicious. It was so good. Oh, I did the brined herb roasted chicken. That was the main event. So anyway, bone marrow pudding. I will have to share that recipe. I may make it for Thanksgiving. We'll see. But you got your stock in the pan, and that is about a half a gallon of stock now. Here's the thing. I am going to transform that half gallon into this. This is actually about 2 gallons of broth, and I did not simmer it down as much as I usually do because I was in a hurry. But you can see it's not coming out of there. That is a solid blob of gelatinous, thick, ooey gooey goodness. So when I am going to make a soup or I'm cooking rice or whatever I want to use it for, I just take a spoon and scoop a little out in that hot water. I don't have to freeze it. I don't have to can it, which please don't ever high pressure can anyway. You've heard me say that a few hundred times. But I can just store it on the counter or in the pantry. It keeps perfectly well. If I am intending for this to store for months or a year, I'm going to cover it with a light layer of either tallow or ghee. I usually use ghee. And again, that fat seals it just as the fat sealed the chicken broth that I made a couple weeks ago. And that's it. So if I were making a go bag, this is in it. Absolutely, because you're not going to go grab cans off your basement shelf and run out of your house when the poo hits the fan and the world is falling apart. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But at any rate, it takes up almost no space, which is what I like about it. It's a good way just to preserve this very vital food. And this is like the #1 food in my house because it's healing, it's nourishing, it's delicious, it's super useful. So there's one of my tips. Take the broth and just simmer it down. So I'll simmer this for probably 4 or 5 hours. Just simmer. It's not using a lot of electric. My stove is induction, so if you're using gas, it takes almost no gas. But you just want to let it simmer down, 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 down until it's reduced to the point that it's basically goo. You can take it further if you want until it's leathery, and then you can powder it in a coffee mill or a food mill. A great way to save your stock. Okay. And back to the fat. I'm just going to add some cold water to that. I'm going to want to clarify it when it's melted because I don't want it to taste like the seasonings that are in the soup that I made with it, which is primarily garlic, onion, and garam masala. Pretty good stuff. All right. We'll just set that aside. Okay. Okay, that's on low and medium low. Now, The last thing that I want to show you today is something that I also talk about often. I talk about this in being prepared in your kitchen and having things be easy. And I do mean easy. That is to make mirepoix, sofrito, garlic and onions, or the healing infusion in ghee that I often talk about and that I use in my healing breakfast soup. I'm going to make that particular concoction right now, but I'll show you in a moment also the sofrito. And let me explain the differences here. Mirepoix is 2 parts onion, and then let's just say 1 onion, 2 ribs of celery, and 2 carrots. And they're grated up or chopped up. That's mirepoix. I know Trader Joe's and some grocery stores have it in the refrigerator section just ready to grab and go. It needs to be cooked before you use it, and it has a very limited shelf life like that. However, when you do what I'm going to do, it has a shelf life of a month, possibly longer. I go through mine in a month or 2, so I don't know how long it would actually go. But it makes meal prep so easy. So mirepoix is classic in French cooking. Sofrito, there are various versions of sofrito, but sofrito is basically mirepoix with garlic and oftentimes peppers. And then, as I said, there are some variations. Here's my sofrito. I made 2 pints of this a few weeks ago, and I have about 1.5 pints left because I cook a lot. But it's just, again, this is mirepoix with garlic. So that is, we call it sofrito to distinguish it from mirepoix. But I do not put any peppers in here, which would be pretty standard for Italian or Spanish cooking. But this keeps on the counter because it is cooked in olive oil and ghee, olive oil or ghee, whichever you prefer. And then it is sealed with the same fat that it is cooked in. And just as with the broth, the fat seals it. It prevents putrefaction and spoilage. So as long as the solids are under some kind of fat, it's perfectly fine. Sometimes as I'm using a jar, I'll just top it off with a little more olive oil to make sure that everything is kept covered. I'm noticing I was digging in the dirt. Yeah, I did all my transplanting yesterday, so please forgive the dirt under my nails. I will wash my hands before I get them into food. Again, maybe. So the reason that I do this is that I can throw together a really good meal in 5 minutes. I mean a good meal. That beef stew that I showed you took me about 10 minutes. That included browning the ground beef. Not the ground beef, it was stew meat. I did marinate the stew meat with garlic and red wine, and then I dried it off, and then I sauteed it. I actually sauteed it in this. I normally would just saute it in a little olive oil, but I went ahead and used this, got some extra flavor out of it, and then I added the broth that I had just made. I added some fresh and frozen veggies, and literally 5 or 10 minutes max. And then it just had to simmer for a couple of hours, and it was good. Well, it is good. I'm going to have it for dinner before I leave here today. But the healing breakfast, or rather the healing anti-inflammatory preparation that is, it's kind of a staple for Asian cooking anyway, but you normally would be preparing it as you go. I like to save time and I hate messes. So I'd rather make one big mess, clean it up, and not have to do it again for weeks or more. So here we go. Let me grab my peeler. I don't worry so much about peeling ginger and turmeric because there are good things in the skins of each of these. I will, however, take some of that coarseness off. So I'm going to just remove some of the peel, but not all. I will say that one of the reasons why I have dirt under my nails is that I grow garlic and turmeric. And yesterday I took some of this very garlic, not garlic, I'm sorry. I also planted garlic on Tuesday. I planted garlic outside, but inside I planted my ginger and turmeric in a pot along with cardamom because they all kind of go together. So there. Nothing much to that. See, it still has plenty of rind. And then I'm just going to use a regular kitchen grater and grate it all down. And you can see that was about a 2-finger size piece of ginger. Sometimes I do this, I grate it with my KitchenAid, but I find that the fibers from the ginger gunk it up and it doesn't work so well. Another tip I'm going to do right now. I keep special protective gloves in my drawer because I do a lot of chopping and grating and I don't like to take my skin off when I'm doing this. So I get it down to next to nothing, and I'm not going to discard this last little piece that I'm not going to successfully shred. I'm just going to toss it all into this small pan, every bit of it. Most of it went inside here. I do typically make more than the amount that I'm making right now. And actually, I probably should because we're trying to save time, aren't we? I also make ginger beer with the fresh ginger. And actually, I'll show you. This is my ginger bug starter to make ginger beer. We have a fermented beverages course, but I don't know if it has been put up on our website yet. But in that, I make continuous brew kombucha and ginger beer and kefir soda for the kids. Those are so pleasant, especially for summertime, but I keep the kefir soda all year long because the grandchildren and the neighborhood kids really love it and they ask for it. I just sent some over to the neighbors a few days ago. And then the ginger beer, wow, it's powerful. I just love it. It's good for an upset stomach, but it just tastes good too. And that ginger bug starter is good just to have on hand for the same reason, for an upset stomach. Okay, there we go. A little bit more. And then that ended up being about 4 fingers, or maybe a whole hand's worth of ginger. This is not precise. I'm going to take the turmeric and again, just remove some of the skin so it's not super stringy. So if you use 2 fingers of ginger or a thumb-sized piece of ginger, you want to use about half as much turmeric, which is much easier to grate, by the way, as you can see. All right, I've got a few more here. I'm going to use all of these and we'll have about the right proportions, about 2 parts ginger to 1 part turmeric. This is so very high in antioxidants and anti-inflammatories and compounds that help to heal the gut. And they taste good too. I think it's just so crazy beautiful that the most healing of foods are the best tasting. Getting down to the little bits that don't like to go through. Okay, and I've got one more. I'm not even going to peel it. I'm just going to use it. And that is the last of the turmeric. Right. That turmeric is such a beautiful color, isn't it? So brilliant. When you have deeply colored foods in nature, you have a high nutritional value. In the plant kingdom, anyway. All right. Now, 2 more things that go in here, and one that would normally go in, but I'm not going to use. So, garlic. I like to use about 2 cloves of garlic per thumb-sized piece of ginger. I'm going to do 4 or 5. These are pretty large cloves. But again, who doesn't love garlic? Even my friend Julianne, who can't eat it, I think used to love it. So garlic, of course, has all of the same wonderful properties as ginger, or most anyway, but they work together synergistically. Again, in nature, things that naturally go together also work synergistically for health and nutrition. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick after I move I have just a few tomatoes lingering in my garden, and I just picked this one. Isn't it beautiful? It's a Cherokee, I think. But I'm going to show you how I mince garlic. I could just grate this in the grater, but I prefer instead to mince. So I'm going to take that clove, and first I'm going to take my knife. Ooh, it's hard for me to make it so you can see well. I make thin slices, and then I mince like this. I have a little garlic mincer thingamajig that I bought last year. I don't like it. I'm still just mincing my garlic this way. It works. I hope you can see how I'm doing this. Okay, I've got thin slices, and then I'm just chopping. I'm going to chop it all together to make it finer. I'm going to do the same with all of these. And the one last piece. Okay. And that's it. still like it to be pretty fine. So I'm going to run it again in each direction with my knife. But the thing that is that this is going to infuse in the ghee anyway. So there we go. All right. And last but definitely not least is the ghee. I'm just going to cover this with ghee. In this case, for this particular preparation, I only use ghee. I don't use olive oil because in Asian cooking, they didn't have olive oil, but they use ghee a lot. And they use it for flavor, but Ayurvedic medicine recognizes ghee as a medicinal food. This concoction is a very medicinal food, very beneficial. Now, the one thing that I should add, and I'll show you, is freshly cracked black pepper. However, my husband, who will be consuming this, is currently sensitive. Whoops, we don't want that to go down the stairwell. My husband is currently sensitive to black pepper. And so even though black pepper does help to get the curcumin from the turmeric into the body, into the cells, he needs to stay away from it for about 3 months. So we're going to utilize all of the other beautiful effects, including flavor from this, minus the black pepper. And then I can just add freshly cracked black pepper to people's plates or bowls or whatever. But I'm going to put this on the stove and just simmer it and stir it occasionally for about half an hour, 20, 30 minutes, until the vegetable matter, the solids, are translucent. Then I can combine this with chicken stock to make my healing breakfast soup, or I can put it in another dish. But because the spices and herbs are already cooked, you don't have to cook them and wait. It's just like with the sofrito. It's done. You just put it in and add what you want. And now tomorrow I'll be getting my order of ground beef, ground pork, ground lamb, and all of that. And I'll mix those things together and just brown them in a big pan. Just brown them, no seasoning, no salt, no nothing. Just brown it and crumble it. And then I will freeze that in portions, or I could put it in jars and cover it with oil or fat, but I'm not going to do that because the end product would be too fatty. So I'll just freeze that in smaller portions. When I say smaller, for me, that's going to mean pretty much 2-pound sizes. And then I can pull one of those out of the freezer to thaw, pull one of these out, or sometimes it's just garlic and onion. I do that as well. And I can toss it together with my broth. Take a scoop of broth and add hot water. And then, maybe I add grated cheese, sour cream, heavy cream. George can't have dairy right now except for aged cheeses and whey. So in our household right now, for the next 3 months, we're going through a transition, which hopefully is in the short term, hopefully only a few months. But for most of us, and most of you, you can do this all the time, include the black pepper, and you can follow my healing breakfast soup recipe, which is on our YouTube channel. And you can make whatever you want. But I like to do the chicken broth, cook the eggs in the chicken broth, add some whole coconut milk and or coconut cream, a dash of good, actually fermented soy sauce, and just a dash of fresh lime and a handful of cilantro. Maybe I toss some lemongrass in there too. I have lemongrass growing. That's one of the things that I was working with yesterday in my atrium. So this goes on the stove. I think I have some in the fridge that I can show you. Yes, I do. I am almost out of this, but I made this 6 months ago. So I'll finish it off probably today or tomorrow. This I did keep in the fridge. And I think I'm glad I did this time around, but usually I keep some out on the counter for a few weeks or a month at a time, and it's fine. But that was a larger amount, and I did keep some of it in the fridge. Anyway, those are my main tips. Amy's asking if I grow ginger and turmeric completely inside, or does it go outside? It will go outside when it's hot outside, or when it's at least getting warm outside. But we have a very unique house. I'm just going to say, we bought it at a pretty good, we sold our farm, found this. I didn't want it because I didn't want to do a whole house renovation again. We'd only done it 2 or 3 times, but my husband was in love with the house and he can do this stuff. This is what he does. So I'm just giving you the caveat. We're not wealthy people, but we have a really cool house because my husband can do this. So do I bring my plants outside? Yes, I do. But, you know, when you have the ability to just grow stuff, I do. Lots of stuff. I've actually got some turmeric. I don't know if you can see it in the window box. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I can probably use my camera phone. But I just transplanted rosemary, 2 different kinds of rosemary, lavender, thyme, cardamom, ginger, turmeric, and they're all over there between about 5 pots. Then I've got other stuff here and there, but it's a cool house and I can grow stuff inside year round. We live in the trees, so in my kitchen, I usually have a few things going, also a few herbs, but most of them honestly are either out on my deck where I have planter boxes instead of a deck rail. My husband welded beautiful planter boxes, and that shows up in some of my videos. And I can go out year round and at least harvest a few things from the deck. And then a few things come inside and live in the atrium for the winter. And I'm starting another little rosemary because I love rosemary. So that little sprig that broke off when I was transplanting is going to be a new rosemary plant. I would just hold things. I've got a ledge here in the kitchen, and I could do pots of herbs. Even things like garlic, and actually microgreens is something I'm getting ready to start. But my kitchen doesn't get enough bright sunlight, so most of my plants, including my winter herbs, are in the atrium. If I were in a little bit warmer climate, I would probably have window boxes on the porch rails going out. So I'm in Northern Virginia, but I've got those windows, the patio doors. If you live in a place that's warmer than Northern Virginia, man, I'd have planter boxes outside the windows and grow things. I've got the one planter box that I tried to show you. Don't know if you could see it. But that I do usually have thyme and currently turmeric. Now that's actually ginger. Funny thing is you can tell them apart. Ginger is bigger, the root is bigger, but the leaves and the stems are sort of thin and almost frilly. But turmeric, which is a much smaller root size, has bigger leaves and bigger, it just gets bigger and taller. So grow stuff. I mean, if you have a sunny spot, grow stuff. I grow things medicinally on the first level of our atrium. I usually have some herbs growing. I also have a window box down there, but it gets less light. So if you have a sunny window, have some pots in the windowsill or a window box. Grow some herbs for yourself. It is pretty easy to grow onions, garlic, turmeric, ginger. My tarragon and thyme are still going like gangbusters outside on the deck, and they will until probably late November. Sage, same thing. I can go out and pick sage, not all winter, but most of the year. So my culinary herbs are also my medicinal herbs, and I keep them close. If you have a deck or a sunroom, man, fill it with herbs. They're beautiful. They smell good. And then it's just so easy. It's easy to go out and snip. People love to come to my house and have a cup of fresh herb tea. And I can do that year round, but the herbs are going to vary. So right now, the mints that I have, I probably have 5 mints. They're very much fading away, but I can still clip a little, and I can always clip some thyme, some sage, and go into the atrium and harvest, even in the winter, some lavender and rosemary. The tarragon will die off, I'm sure, within a month, but it's still doing really well. So grow some things. That way it saves you money, but also you always have something to flavor a pot of tea or whatever you're cooking on the stove. I do dry some herbs as well, but it's so much nicer to just use fresh. So let me see what else I have. Oh, yeah, Carmen likes the chicken liver pate. Yep. It's nice to see you, Yana, and Arya. Okay, all right. So I think those are our questions, and we've actually gone over time. I expected it to be less than usual, but I'm going to go put this on the stove. I'm going to grab myself a pot of the beef stew that I made yesterday, and then I'm going to head to my church where I have practice for singing for Sunday morning. So I'll sign off for now, but please come back next week, everyone, and please have questions ready for Dr. T. We will be talking about the V word. We'll be talking about current and past research, including comparing benefits versus side effects in both recognized and unrecognized side effects, but also how to be healthy and strong regardless. So that should be a really interesting and probably somewhat intense conversation, but man, come on back for it because it is important. And I also will soon be putting up a link to a new film, a new documentary film about that very topic, which looks to be really, really informative. So be looking for that. And thank you so much for that, Carmen. I really appreciate it. We do ask, of course, that whole mantra, you hear it every time you watch a YouTube video, and I just feel stupid saying it, but man, every like and every subscribe helps us in ways that you don't even probably realize, but it makes a big difference to us. So if you can like and subscribe and share with your friends, and then you can buy us a glass of raw milk. You can buy us a pitcher of raw milk. Every little bit helps for us to continue to bring to you hopefully good and useful content. That is our goal. So with that, I will close for now. Oh, except for one thing. Our product spotlight for today is Simply Ghee. I was going to let the Simply Ghee gals know, and I will. I'll text them before I leave, but their product is excellent, and I use it every day in my kitchen. It is, of course, it's delicious, but it's highly nutritious. And it works so well as a medicine as well as a food. So Simply Ghee, we have a link. We have a link on our website. Give them a try. It comes typically in pints, but I actually usually do the half gallons. and then I just keep refilling. So check out Simply Ghee, and we'll see you next week, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.